are the exact same bodies that our ancestors had thousands of years ago. How often did our ancestors run marathons?
Right.
How often did they have to fight for their life? Not too often, hopefully, not too often, but on occasion you do. But when you do this regularly, when you're training aggressively, when we become a little obsessed with being Adonis or being a babe, and the training we do can be too aggressive for that. The result is we pay a price. And one of those prices can be pathogenic intestinal permeability, the leaky gut.
Yep. It's funny. I was in Nepal, going from village to village back in like 2000 or so. And there was some kid that was coming up to me because they found out that I was doing some doctoring, and they said, okay, great. Can you help? And I said, okay, I need, local herbs. Go talk to go talk to your local people and tell me what herbs you have for this and that and the other. He says, okay, I'll be back in a few hours. And so he just goes running off. And I turn to the other guy and say, hey, where's he going? He's like, he's going to so-and-so village. And I just kind of hiked from that direction. I go, isn't that like 14 miles away? He goes, oh yeah, he'll be right back. I'm like, got it. We run marathons once a year and we pat ourselves on the back. Like that used to be life for some of these mountain kids. Right. So it's also, where we come from and what we do now. I mean, the marathon for me right now, after, 2 weeks of being in a, series launch would probably break me. But a marathon, if you are running every day, is different business.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we're good on the Q&A. And so I'm going to jump back in on some questions here. And again, Dr. Tom, is joining us from Lake Garda, Italy, for those of you who are just tuning in. Cool. So yeah, and anyone who came in at the middle of the conversation, don't worry, you can go back to the beginning. So stay here with us live. If one person sees it, it means all of us are seeing it. So we'll go there. Ted's asking, how do you wean yourself off of Nexium after years of use?
With your doctor's guidance. Whoever prescribed it to you, you go to them and say, look, I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to exercise a little bit. I'm going to take some natural herbs or whatever protocols you're going to use. And would you monitor me as I'm weaning off of this medication and make sure that I'm doing it safely? And all physicians would like to see their patients using less medication if it's safe. And if your doctor says, no, you've got to take it the rest of your life, then you find a new doctor to monitor you. But you want to always have the guidance of the doc who prescribed it to you. That's the first step. That's the first and most important thing with that one. The second thing is you want to reduce your inflammatory mechanisms. That's most important, is whatever it is in your life that's inflammatory, you want to get that out of there. And the most common trigger for inflammation in your body is what's on the end of your fork. So you want to make sure that the foods you're eating are safe for you and are non-inflammatory. That's critically important. And then the goal is always, the first thing is with your doctor's guidance. The second thing is, why do I have this need for this medication? And it doesn't matter if it's Nexium or what medication it is. Why do I have a need for this medication? And from that perspective, you have to go back upstream and figure out what happened to me that caused my body to dysfunction to the point that I needed that medication. So it depends. It depends on what the trigger is that set off the dysfunction for which the medication was prescribed. Mm-hmm. You have to go back to look for that. If you try to find a natural alternative to a pharmaceutical, the result is you still have the imbalance going on and you're trying to suppress the manifestation, the symptoms, by using a natural as opposed to a pharmaceutical. And that may be a little bit better, but the underlying imbalance is still there.
Let's talk about that real quickly, because there's a lot of people that came up and asked, so natural solutions are everything. And everyone, kind of deifies herbs and says, look, I'm taking this herb for this. It must be great. Herbs have very strong effects. They're very potent, and not all herbs are going to, not have a deleterious effect on your microbiome if you're not careful. right? And so, one of the things that I, have heard a lot in our chat threads and a lot that came through as people saw this series is, oh, well, I take this for everything. And that may or may not help in some places. I just want to get your opinion on that.
About herbs in general?
Yeah, just herbs and their effect on the microbiome and their role in kind of the big picture here.
Oh, you bet. You bet. Herbs have a powerful impact on the microbiome, and some of them can be a bit aggressive. Anything you put down there is going to impact on your microbiome. Anything and everything that you eat will impact. Now, we move towards herbs that are supportive of building a diversity of the probiotics, the good guys that you want in your gut. Some of those herbs, ashwagandha is good for that. Some of the mushrooms help to stabilize a healthy diversity of your microbiome. But there are some herbs, and I'm not an herbalist, so I can't tell you about all of them. I know some of them can disrupt a balanced microbiome and throw you into imbalance. So I think the first step that you would look at would be, how does my gut feel when I take these herbs? How are my bowel movements? How's my digestion? Am I having any symptoms whatsoever that are a problem for me? And if so, you want to back off on some of these herbs. That's the first thing I would say to that. Great.
What about candida? There's a lot of people that are having overgrowth of fungus, and it's just this part of the microbiome that kind of goes unspoken a lot of times, is just our relationship with fungal elements in our world, and how much they actually impact our inflammation and our health.
Yeah, back in the 80s, candida was a big buzzword. That every other person who came into the office was saying, I've got candida. And some do and some don't. And like any other component of the microbiome, if you get an overgrowth of one of the factors, if you get an overgrowth of this yeast called Candida albicans, it can be detrimental. It takes over. And in rare cases, it can be deadly. It can be really bad. Mm-hmm. And so it's certainly possible, especially for people who have had, perhaps not now, but in the past, a strong affinity to sugars, to sweets. Well, I don't have a strong affinity to sugar. No? What do you drink? Well, I have pop. How often do you have pop? Well, I have a couple, 3 a day. That's excessive sweets by itself. That's enough to feed because candida, yeast feed on sugar. So if you take in high concentrations of or large amounts of high sugar foods, you're feeding the yeast. And if you're feeding the yeast and you're doing it regularly on a daily basis, you can trigger the imbalance of the diversity, and the candida can rear its head and become more dominant. When it becomes more dominant, it starts secreting toxins. Those toxins by themselves impact on brain function, change the quantity of neurotransmitters and the balance of neurotransmitters. Those are your nerve hormones in your brain and throughout your body. So candida can cause that if you have an overgrowth. Also, when your immune system gets activated to fight candida, the cell wall of candida is very similar to the cell walls of wheat, and specifically to one of the gluten proteins. So you make antibodies to candida, that may be the trigger that takes you over the edge, and you develop the immune response to wheat. Now you become allergic to wheat. Now we know that all humans have a problem with wheat. Everyone does, that's just physiology, but it doesn't manifest as a problem for everyone. You have to have what's called a loss of oral tolerance. You have to cross the line, and your immune system says, wheat, no longer am I letting you in here. And then you start making antibodies to wheat, and then the whole world of gluten sensitivity comes into play. So I'm telling you all that because candida, an overgrowth of candida, may be the trigger by which you lose oral tolerance to wheat. Now you have a sensitivity to wheat, and that's permanent. And that means for the rest of your life, you're going to have a problem with wheat, whether you feel it or not. And just to complete this thought, The lucky ones are the ones that get GI complaints when they have a problem with wheat. The unlucky ones are the ones where it affects your brain, or it affects your joints, or it affects your kidneys, or it affects your gallbladder. You don't feel that when that's happening. You don't feel it when you're killing off your cerebellum in your brain, which can, in 26% of the people that have a sensitivity to wheat, in my practice, have an elevated level of antibodies to cerebellum, killing off their cerebellum. You don't feel that. 22% of people with elevated antibodies to wheat have elevated antibodies to myelin basic protein. That's the saran wrap around your nerves. That's MS. When it gets bad, you don't feel that. So candida, an overgrowth of candida, may be the trigger that has this cascade effect all the way down the road. So the first thing I would say for this guy asking about Nexium after talking to your doctor and after asking what happened to my digestive tract that I need Nexium, why does that happen? The next thing I would do is I would look at your microbiome. I would do the most effective evaluation that you can of your microbiome to see what's the state of my microbiome. And I, because it's me, I also would check to see, do I have a sensitivity to wheat now? Because that by itself, the sensitivity to wheat can cause all of the symptoms, any or all of the symptoms that you get with the common presenting complaints by which your doctor prescribes Nexium.
There's a couple points that I want to bring out there. One is everyone feels sorry for themselves for having gut issues and being like, oh, woe is me. You are the lucky one, right?
You're the lucky ones. Yeah. You're the lucky ones. Your body's talking to you. You may not want to listen, but there's least communication going on. You're absolutely right, Pedram.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. It's like so you got the gut problems and say your spouse, usually, it's like you got some cranky husband saying, what's wrong with you? I got an iron stomach, but then they're forgetting where they left the keys or their hands are starting to tremble. They're getting it in the brain. You're the one that's the canary in the coal mine. So it's really important to get tested for this stuff too.
Right, exactly right. I'd like to give a shout out here, Kin, because we also are airing this on Facebook at the same time, and on the DrTom Facebook. And Kin Parati from Rome is in the house. She says, "My two favorite doctors." Thank you.
Yay, that's sweet.
And Tracy says, "Love the Interconnected series." Thanks, Tracy. Christine in North Carolina says, "Love the Interconnected series." So it goes on and on. Lots of people are giving you compliments, Pedram.
Well, thank you
on this series. Way to go.
Thank you. Well, all I do is, host a party and invite great guests. Right. And so the thing is, you go to the best and you get the best and you say, listen, go, tell us what people need to hear. And I did not have one person that didn't just just be so forthright with their information to just try to get this into the houses of people. We know that diet works. We know that having a healthy microbiome works. Like the top researchers, you could say, look, we don't know enough to create drugs off this stuff, but we know enough to say, do this now.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, it works, and it works really well. So one other thing. So I'm gonna jump to Janet's question actually real quick because they're coming in so fast. I want to make sure we can honor as many people as we can. Great question because she knows so many people with the horrible issue of chronic depression, anxiety. What protocol do you recommend and in what order? Food, supplements, any other suggestions?
Yeah, the very first thing I would do with chronic depression, the number one manifestation of a affective disorder with a sensitivity to wheat is depression. That's number one. And so the first thing I do for people when they present, Mrs. Patient, while the tests are coming in, let's get some tests done. And before they even come back, let's just start you right now. Wheat-free, dairy-free, sugar-free. Right now, starting today, completely. No little bit of cheese once in a while, no milk in your coffee. Use coconut milk, use almond milk. But get all the dairy, anything that comes from the udder of a cow, and get all the wheat out of there, all of it. And sugar, no extra sugars. Let's just see what happens. And that's the first thing we do. And that's so often, all of a sudden, people start feeling better right away. Sometimes it's not the miracle cure and they need much more. They need to repair the damage that's been done and rebuild some tissue. But that always seems to be a valuable component to start with. That's the very first thing. The second thing that I would say about depression, specifically about depression, Have you worked with someone, a professional that deals with the emotional side or the spiritual side of that? I call it a pyramid of health. You know, there's 4 sides to a pyramid. We think there are 3, but there are 4. And it's an emphasis in my new book, You Can Fix Your Brain. The emphasis is on the 4 sides. There is the base of the pyramid. That's your structure. That's the home of chiropractic and massage and pillows and car seats and chairs and orthotics in your shoes and all because your structure, an imbalance in your structure can cause any problem, any problem. Just go to Google and type in depression and structure. And here come the studies that show that, or spinal imbalance or chiropractic and depression. And you'll see study after study after study that sometimes it's the structure that causes the problem. Sometimes it's the biochemistry that's out of balance. And unfortunately, that's the only one that's addressed for most people, is give them the drug to see if that helps them feel better. And then they leave them on their own. So, but biochemistry can be critically important. As an example, if you have a sensitivity to wheat, the most common manifestation, and I do this in my talks, you know, have 300 docs in a room. How many of you know or suspect you have a sensitivity to wheat? Raise your hands high, please. High, come on, bring them up. You know, the docs are like this, and they go, okay. Now, look around the room, and they look around the room, and they go, wow, it's 80% of the room raises their hand. Now, and I said, this is not a talk to a celiac group. This is just a talk to healthcare practitioners that are a little more sensitive about what's going on in their bodies. Now, how many of you know or suspect that if you have an inadvertent exposure to wheat, it seems to affect your brain? Right? Raise your hands high, look around the room, and they go, wow. And it's about 70% of the first group that raised their hand. It's most common is that when you have a sensitivity to a food, and specifically wheat, it affects your brain. Very, very common. How does that happen? There are 13 mechanisms by which it happens, but the most common mechanism is a lack of blood flow into the brain. The geek term is called hypoperfusion. It means lack of blood flow. So I have the audience say, please cross your legs. Everybody, come on, cross your legs. And they go, oh, geez, you know, and then they go cross their legs. And I say, now, leave them like that for 3 hours. Stand up and run. Give your child toast for breakfast. Send them to school to learn. If there's a lack of blood flow into the brain, which is the most common symptom that develops, they can't. No matter what happens, they can't. So depression is the most common affective disorder of the brain with the sensitivity to wheat, with or without celiac disease. Many studies on this. And so the first thing to do when you feel that you're in a depressed state, the very first thing to do, of course, if you need help, you go see a specialist right away. But on your own, until you can get there, the very first thing you do, wheat-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, completely, no cheating. Lots of vegetables, but some quality meats, a little bit of carbs. Just try that first and see what happens.
I love it. I love it. That actually rolls right into a question I just saw by Rena, who said, you know, for the average person starting on this journey of a healthy microbiome, what would be your kind of 3 initial must-do recommendations? And I think I just heard one of them, but yeah, like what, you know, just people are coming in off, you know, the standard American diet and are really, really fascinated by what they've heard in the series. And now they're like, okay, how do I do this? What do I do in my life?
Yeah, I talked about it in the series a little bit, but you know, I'll repeat here. There are 3 things that everyone should be doing just in general for their health and to maintain a healthy, diverse microbiome. The first one is that there is a substance produced in the lining of your tube, the donut. There is a substance produced there called intestinal alkaline phosphatase. It is a big player in the health of your gut. And I think the best statistic that dropped my jaw is that it reduces metabolic endotoxemia. That means crud in your blood that causes sepsis. When old people die, they've had recurrent infection after infection and infection. That's sepsis. And it reduces metabolic endotoxemia by 75%, intestinal alkaline phosphatase. So you want high levels of intestinal alkaline phosphatase. How do you get high levels of intestinal alkaline phosphatase? How do you support the inside lining of the cheesecloth to make more intestinal alkaline phosphatase? In England, they call it stewed apples. Here, we call it applesauce. So you just take 4 or 5 apples, organic, don't peel them, just wash them, cut them into bite-sized pieces, throw the seeds away, put them in a pot. In the pot, add water to about 1/3 the height of the apples. Add a little cinnamon. If you've got kids, throw a few raisins in there. Turn it on high, bring it to a boil, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes 5, depending on the power of your stove. In the boiling process, look in there. When there's a shine on the skin of the apples, it's done. Turn it off. Now you've got applesauce. And you eat 3-4 tablespoons a day, depending on your body weight. You know, if you weigh 200 pounds, you might have 6 tablespoons a day. If you weigh 100 pounds, you'll have about 3. And it's not exact, you know, a ballpark that amount. You don't need a big bowl of it. But every day you have 3 to 6 tablespoons of applesauce. It stimulates the production of intestinal alkaline phosphatase. The pectin in the apples is the food to produce intestinal alkaline phosphatase. It also stimulates the production of more probiotics. It enhances the binding of the good bacteria to your gut wall so that they can colonize and get stronger to protect you from the bad bacteria. All of that comes from applesauce. This is why an apple a day keeps the doctor away. This is why. It's true. It's not some cutesy phrase. This is the science behind it. I mean, it's so cool when you read the science. You know, it's really, I mean, it gets me off. I love that. Right.
Quick question on that is someone listening to this right now is saying, okay, but I could just buy apple pectin as a supplement or apple pectin fiber. Is it the same? Is it as good?
That's really, that's a very good question. The answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows. And I'm sure it'll be of some benefit. However, we know about the totality of a food. And it's true with the herbs. We know in the totality of herbs, because I'm involved with an herbal company called Sunhorse Energy. The totality of the herbs is much more powerful in the big picture than a single extract from an herb. You know, you can concentrate certain components, but there are enzymes and cofactors in foods that help your body use the food better, and in herbs that helps your body use the herbs better. So you, whenever possible, you want the big picture. You want the whole exposure. I think if you don't have access to apples, or if you don't have access to a stove, or you're just a lazy one and you don't want to spend 8 to 10 minutes to make enough applesauce to last you for 2-3 days. I'm sorry, I'm being a little judgmental, but you know what? I mean, you want to get healthy? You know, sometimes you get, well, I'll just buy the pectin. All right. You know, I'm sure it's going to help, but there's no studies that I've seen where pectin powder is as effective or more effective or less effective than applesauce itself. I've just not seen that.
Amen. So, amen. Yeah. And listen, go ahead.
That's the first. Should we go on to the second?
Yeah, let's go.
The second, Mrs. Patient, when you go shopping, always buy organic. Many reasons why, and you talked about it in Interconnected really quite well. But get every root vegetable they have. Every root vegetable in the store. Get a couple of each of them. Rutabagas and turnips and parsnips and radishes, sweet potatoes and carrots. Not too many white potatoes. They have a high glycemic index. A little is okay, but not a lot of them. But get all the root vegetables. Every day you have at least one root vegetable. Every single day. Well, I don't know how to do turnips. Learn. I mean, it's easy. I mean, you know what I do with a turnip? I dice it up and bite-sized pieces in a frying pan, olive oil, some onion, some garlic, and turnip. Then I throw in broccoli and bok choy and everything else. And I saute it all together with some spices and I eat it. Do you know how I do rutabaga? I dice it up into bite-sized pieces and I throw it in a pan, olive oil and onions and garlic, and I saute it all together and I add some spices to it and I eat rutabaga. Do you know what I do with parsnips? I dice it up, bite-sized pieces, and I throw it in a pan with olive oil, little onions and garlic. Do you get the point? I just do it with every root vegetable. I do the same thing. And, if you get excited about cooking, then you can look for recipes and bring out the flavors of the root much more, which is great. I don't care about that. No, I care, but I don't have the time or interest to be a chef. I just want the root vegetables. So I do that. One root vegetable a day. And you go to that great library in the sky, Google, and you type in list of prebiotic foods. And here comes the list. And you'll be shocked to see that bananas are a prebiotic, that artichokes are a prebiotic. It doesn't have to be all these weird foods. They're normal everyday foods. Every day you have one root vegetable and two from the list of prebiotic foods that you put on your refrigerator every day. So you have 3 prebiotics a day, every day. Why? Because the prebiotics feed the probiotics. The probiotics are the good bacteria that we want to protect us. And they need to eat. And if we don't give them enough of the right kind of foods, they die off. And then the bad guys rear their ugly heads. So you always want to be giving prebiotics. And yes, there are commercial prebiotic powders. And yeah, I've done them before. I've got a bag of it in my cupboard, and I'll throw a scoop of it if I remember in my smoothie once in a while just to get some extra prebiotic. But I make sure to have a root vegetable every day. That's number 2. Number 3, this is patient. When you go to the store, buy 5 different types of fermented vegetables, 5 different types. Make sure they're not pasteurized because pasteurization kills bacteria. Get sauerkraut. Get kimchi, get miso, get fermented beets, get curry flavored, get 5 different types. And every day you have, and your family, you have 1 forkful of a different fermented vegetable. Keep alternating them. Don't eat sauerkraut every day. I mean, it's okay if you do, but then you're just feeding certain bacteria. When you alternate, the fermentation process of the vegetables brings up colonies and colonies and colonies of great bacteria, the beneficial bacteria for you. So you're inoculating, that's a good medical term, so that you don't need to buy some expensive things to inoculate your gut. You just eat fermented vegetables every day and you alternate what they are, and you're inoculating your gut every single day with more good bacteria. So the root vegetables and the prebiotics, 2 prebiotics to feed the good bacteria, and then taking more of good bacteria in the vegetables you eat. And I just want to give a shout out here that my people know on Facebook, the more they throw the hearts up there and the happy emojis and all that, the more they do that, the more I keep going. And so they're just doing like that. There's hundreds of them going right now. So thank you so much. It's so much fun when all those are coming up. So.
Yeah, by the way, I want to do that because we're doing this on our YouTube and your Facebook, and we're also a lot of people on page. So let's take some questions from your Facebook in a minute too. I just want to come to a couple quick things here. Is you had talked about the base of a pyramid having 4 sides. I just want to make sure that people understand what those 4 sides are, because someone started writing this down and is like, wait, what was what? So let's kind of lay the foundation of the pyramid and say what was what, and then we'll move to more questions.
Good, thanks for that, because it's a really important concept. Anytime you're dealing with a health issue for you or your family, you have to think from the pyramid approach. Your doctors won't do that. This is a new concept for most of them. There are 4 sides to it. There is structure, that's at the base of a pyramid. There's biochemistry, that's one side. There is emotional or spiritual, that's another side. And then there's electromagnetic. That's the third side of the standing. So there's 4 sides: structure, biochemistry, emotional, spiritual, and electromagnetic. If you, for the woman with depression, if you have your alarm clock on your nightstand next to your brain while you're sleeping all night, if that particular alarm clock is leaking electromagnetic energy because the wiring wasn't put together too well on the assembly line that built that thing for you, then your brain is being traumatized all night long. The hormones that you're producing, the neurotransmitters that are being produced, throw you way out of balance, and you may develop depression from it, or anxiety, or attention deficit. And it could be the alarm clock next to your bed, because that's right at your head. Put the alarm clock on the dresser on the other side of the room. And people say, oh, that means I'll have to get out of bed. That's the idea when the alarm goes off.
That's just it. We've turned our bedroom into a cave. Like we shut down the Wi-Fi, and phones have to be away. And I actually have this, like, someone sent us this purse that's an electromagnetic barrier for my wife, and she didn't use it. So I was like, this is perfect. I put it on top of my phone, and put my phone in airplane mode, and that's it. Just boom, gone. Right?
So many of our friends, as they start hearing some of these studies, when we have some of our friends who are focusing on EMFs and they do summits on EMF and things like that, then people like you and like me, I turn off the wireless every night. My phone's on airplane mode every night, no matter what. It's always on airplane mode at nighttime, and it's away from my head. And so we go, holy cow, that's just another piece of the puzzle. All right, I'm going to start doing that for me and my family. And I'm hoping that people that are watching will realize electromagnetic pollution is just as potent as biochemical pollution. Now, you think you have depression and you have to take an antidepressant. Well, hopefully the day will come soon when most of us will know, if you think you have depression, you have to get your cell phone away from your bed at night. And you have to stop holding your cell phone to your brain,
Yep.
And you get a headset. You're using a headset. Things like, exactly.
It's, we could both have Bluetooth headsets. There's a reason why I'm walking around with these clunky wires, right?
That's right.
And so, everything gets cool. Like Apple's got the new cool Bluetooth, cancer. If you wanted that much energy by the parietal lobe of your brain, when the subtle electrical signals are what are helping make neurons fire, we just don't know enough about it. And Jim had asked, actually, this is a perfect segue. Jim had asked, what's the role of all these EMFs on the microbiome? We don't know, but they're alive and they're delicate, and there's some stuff coming out now. I mean, I don't know what you've seen on it, Doc.
Yeah, I've seen a little, not a lot, but a little. And I've been talking to Nick a lot about it. Nick, what's next? Pinoir. He's got a series on EMF, and he talks a lot. Pinot. Oh, thank you.
Pinot Noir is what you had for dinner.
That's right, exactly right. That's how he told me to remember his name, because it's spelled Pineault. You're right, it's Pinot, like Pinot Noir. So I say, oh, Nick Pinot Noir. Let's get a glass of wine. Thank you.
It's a good association.
Yeah, that's right. It helps me to remember. But he has seen some studies, and he refers to it in his course quite a bit. I love this comment that just came in a moment ago from Carol. Said, our Tractor Supply store has great books on making fermented foods. That's the way it should be. Farmers know how to do this, right? So that we all need to be doing it more.
It was before we refrigerated. It's how we stored food. I mean, there's thousands of years of evolutionary history in how we co-evolved with these bacteria that helped crowd out the bad bacteria. And then ever since refrigeration, like, we forgot about our friends, and we just went, up in chronic disease, and everyone's sick and everyone's moaning about not having energy. I mean, you just got to go look back at the history.
Right, exactly. Lots of people are commenting. They turn their cell phones off at night. We have a canopy to keep out EMFs. Annie says, oh, Dr. Tom, I just love you. You're so funny, and you say it like it is, no holding back. Thanks, Annie. What else is there in life? I'm old enough now that I don't care. I just want to tell you guys the way I see it, and hopefully it'll empower you to do more to protect yourselves and your family. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Well, I got two more in front of me, and then maybe you could take a couple from the other thread here. One, Samuel's talking about a 14-year-old female, Hashimoto's and anemia, which started before the period. Hematologists can't figure it out. Any clue? And also the Viome test. Also, can the Viome test take the place of micronutrient, H. pylori, food sensitivity, heavy metal, and parasite tests? So two questions. Let's talk about the Viome test does very specific RNA sequencing to tell you what's going on in there, and it will tell you what's happening with the bacteria, what they're producing and what they're not producing, and who's active. Does it take the place of every other test? Of course not, right? It's another test in the battery of tests.
Right.
And then I'll hand back over to Doc, but it's a good one, right? And then I'll hand over to Doc over here.
Good. Yeah. So what was the first part of the question?
So a 14-year-old female Hashimoto's with anemia.
Right. Oh, that's classic. Oh, I'd love that one. That's lovely.
Yeah, totally.
I would wager $100. $100. I would wager that if you do the wheat zoomer, you'll find your daughter's problem. You will find it. The test is called the wheat zoomer. No other test is as comprehensive as that test to accurately identify what's going on in the gut. No other test. You'll find information about it on my website, theDr.com. Mayo Clinic says there's a new era in laboratory medicine. And I need to reference this for a moment because this is exactly what Viome is also. 25 years ago, it would take a room, a 20 by 20 room with computers, floor to ceiling in 1997 to do what this thing does right now. It would have taken a room, 20 by 20, floor to ceiling computers to do what we take for granted every day. The exact same thing is true in laboratory medicine. The exact same thing. And there was a laboratory that came out a couple of years ago. Mayo Clinic published on it in January of 2016. They said a new era in laboratory medicine. And that is the Zoomer test. That their sensitivity and specificity is like nothing ever before. They are right almost all the time, 97 to 99% of the time, they're correct. And in the world of evaluating your gut, the exact same type of high-end, right on the money science is Viome. There's nothing like them out there, absolutely nothing. Everyone should do a Viome test. Everyone should do a wheat zoomer test because it's so common. And those two basics, when you get those two basics, you go, holy cow, oh my God. I mean, my favorite patients have always been those that come from Mayo Clinic and they say, I've been to Mayo, they don't know what's wrong. And I say, that's great, that's really great. And they look at me like I'm a nutcase. They've heard I'm a nutcase anyway, right? I said, that means that you don't have a disease because if you had a disease, Mayo Clinic would find it. You've got dysfunction. What's not functioning right? So the tests we're going to do are different. They're not going to look for disease. They're going to look for function and dysfunction. And so the second visit, they come back, their test results are back, and people are always anxious to hear test results. We're always nervous about it. So they sit down and I look at the test results and I say, well, good news. You're a mess. You're a mess. Look at all these problems here. The good news is all this stuff is correctable. You get a Viome test back, and if you're not well, you get a Viome test back, you wanted to say that you're a mess. You wanted to say you got this and this and this and this and this problem, and the result's going to be when you eat like this and we recheck it in 3 months, you're going to see the changes. And in the meantime, you're going to be feeling better. Most likely, you're going to feel better because you're changing your microbiome. So Viome may come back and they may notice, oh, they've got very low intestinal alkaline phosphatase, or the bacteria most closely associated with IAP is extremely low. This person needs more apples. Let's talk to them about applesauce. And they're going to recommend, don't eat blueberries right now, eat applesauce. And they'll tell you, and then in 3 months, and you're feeling better, your gut's doing better. 3 months, you check. It's a whole new ballgame because you've changed your microbiome in 1 day. What you eat today is going to impact dramatically on the microbiome you've got tomorrow. That's well known. Your microbiome changes in 24 hours. And both Viome and Vibrant, the lab that does the Zoomer test, is this technology. It's head and shoulders above everything else that's out there.
I'm going to share a video next week, I think, as soon as this dust settles a little bit, on this deep dive I did with a former medical director of Viome, just going through my results. And it was stunning to see that the things that I thought were good for me, I actually didn't have I don't have the bacteria to help break down spinach. And I'm like, man, I eat spinach salads 5 times a week. What the hell?
Exactly.
Oh, right.
Exactly.
And it's just, you can't know that by reading tabloid medicine. You can't know that by just guessing that spinach is good for you. So yeah, we're in a whole new era of this stuff.
So when you are low in Urtibacter, which you are, and that's what you found out, and you eat spinach, your body can't break down the uric acid in spinach. And the result is you get uric acid crystals, and they're in your joints. You get arthritis, or they're in your kidneys. You get kidney stones. But wait, I thought spinach was good for me. No, spinach is good in general if you have a balanced microbiome that can handle it. That's what biome does for you. It tells you what your current state is, so it's not cerebral as to what you should eat. Now, the only problem is that sometimes biome, and I have to talk to our friend about this, I just haven't remembered to do it, and I know he's watching. Sometimes they'll say wheat is okay, and that's because the microbiome hasn't shown problems from wheat, but wheat is never okay. I mean, every human has a problem with wheat, but so we have to go toe to toe on that one. And, hopefully we'll see a modification on that in the future.
Yeah. And look, here's the thing that a lot of people are waiting on is there is no God app yet, right? It's the science is just getting to an interesting place, and all of these technologies that are starting to kind of bubble up at this kind of convergence, we're in it. I'd say in the next 5-10 years, it's going to get way better, but it's just an exciting time. And I think that, people are a little impatient with that. They don't realize, when you're on the cutting edge, you don't really see it, right? You're looking ahead, but the technology is just getting there. And as we start to compile the data, look, Biome's database needs another 1 million people to keep getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And that's happening, right? Yes. And as the machine learning steps in to kind of get better, bigger data, sampling and better sizes of this data sampling, it's going to understand more and more. And that's why, that's a big part of why I feel that we all need to kind of support the science and keep getting in and going too, right?
Absolutely right.
It just gets better with more people.
Fully agree.
Yep. I got one more question here, and I'm gonna let's kind of step to yours. This is a big one. Someone's been told Michelle has been told they have fatty liver. I don't drink. I never have. Let's talk about fatty liver in how we see it present with sugars and why it's not just a drinker's thing.
Yeah, you bet, Michelle. You're in good company. 1/3 of the population in Western society, that means U.S. and Europe. 1/3 of the population has evidence of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. Very, very common. 1/3 of the population. That means if you're a family of 6, 2 of you in the family likely have fatty liver already. And it comes from a number of factors. The first and most important is your microbiome, because your microbiome deals with the foods that you're eating. But the second factor is we ate way too much sugar. Growing up, I grew up on 3 Musketeers and Mountain Dew. And for lunch every day, I had a Hostess apple pie. That was my thing every day. I didn't like Twinkies too much or the cupcakes. I liked the apple pies. But I had one in my lunch bag every day, pure sugar. And I see it all the time. It bothers me. So, if you think about body weight, we do drugs by body weight. Sugar needs to be by body weight. When we would take our kids to the Dairy Queen on a hot summer night, when my son was 4 years old, he'd get a single scoop with sprinkles on it. And if he weighed, I don't remember at the time, but if he weighed 45 pounds, I weigh 180. So my son having 1 scoop, I weigh 4 times what he does. That means I had 4 scoops. Do you know what 4 scoops of ice cream does to your blood sugar? You just crash 2 hours later. So my son, and I didn't know this at the time, I didn't think about this concept of rationing sugar by body weight, because how much can that smaller body take before it's a chemical assault? And it means not very much, right? A little bit. So NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, most commonly has been associated with too much sugar, too many carbohydrates, of the standard American diet that most of us have grown up on. And what is the standard American diet? Just think of what the initials are. Standard American diet. It's the SAD diet. And it is sad because it causes NAFLD. That is the first and the, well, maybe the second response mechanism of a body out of balance from the diet that we eat. The first one, most likely, it's neck and neck with NAFLD, and that is insulin sensitivity. That we lose our body's ability to deal with sugar, and so we create more fat as a result of it. So insulin sensitivity, meaning our insulin doesn't work so well anymore, and NAFLD, those are the two primary mechanisms that occur in our bodies over years, and we don't feel sick, we feel fine, and we keep doing our ding-dongs and ho-hos until one day we say, oh, I guess I've got hypoglycemia, or oh, I guess I've got high triglycerides on a blood test. My doctor says I've got a fatty liver. I don't drink. My godmother died of liver cancer. You know, this is a really good story because this relates to all of us, many of us in one way or another. My 84-year-old godmother was rushed to the hospital one day in severe pain, and they called me. And I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? We don't know, some kind of abdominal pain. They rush her to the hospital, and they find out that she's got 96% of her liver is completely sclerosed, like a severe alcoholic. She's got 4% of her liver left functioning. Now, all the blood in the body goes through the liver, all of it. But now all the blood in the body is having to go through 4% of the liver. What happens to those blood vessels in an 84-year-old, kind of frail 84-year-old woman? What happens to the blood vessels in the liver when they're designed to handle 4% of the blood and now they have to handle 100% of the blood? What happens to the blood vessels? They burst. Internal hemorrhaging. Oh, severe pain. They rush her to the hospital. They do emergency surgery and save her life. And through her whole life, as far back as she could remember, her doctor, her Italian doctor, this is the Italian side of my family, her Italian doctor would say, Emily, you're as healthy as a horse, but you have to stop drinking, because she had mildly elevated liver enzymes. And we think that's associated with alcohol. And Aunt Emily would say, I don't drink. And the doctor would go, ha, 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 and then go on to something else. But it was true. She didn't drink ever. At weddings, we'd toast the bride and groom, and she would grab a glass of water to toast the bride and groom with just as much love and blessing as all of us. And then after the bride and groom would kiss, then we'd say, hey, you old woman over there with a glass of water, you're not one of us. You need to leave. Emily, you know, and we tease her because she was the matriarch, and she'd say, Stacito, means shut up, right? And the other side of the family go, who are these people? You know, what are they doing, right? But it was her liver. She had lost 96% of her liver. Why did she have mildly elevated liver enzymes? Because it is one of the most common symptoms of a sensitivity to wheat. When you read the article from Mayo Clinic entitled The Liver in Celiac Disease, they say 54% of the kids and 48% of the adults at time of diagnosis of celiac have elevated liver enzymes. Now, liver enzymes are a measure of dead liver cells. And we all lose liver cells every day. And so when you do a blood test, there's a normal reference range for liver enzymes. And if you're in the normal range, you're making as many new cells as you're losing. That's okay. But when you have mildly elevated enzymes, you're losing more cells than you're making. And this went on for years for my godmother. Emily, you have to stop drinking. I don't drink. And he didn't know what to do. There's nothing to go. She didn't have any liver disease. He didn't know what to do. But she kept killing off liver cells, until one day it burst. And that was the result. And so I did the blood test for her, and she was a celiac, and she didn't know that she was a celiac. She didn't know. No one ever told her, because she never had gut problems. As we said earlier, the lucky ones are the ones that have gut problems. They're the lucky ones.
You know, something that might be interesting to note is a lot of times, you know, there's a reason she probably didn't drink, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, because she couldn't take it and she knew it. I mean, if you have 4% liver and you have a drink, you feel god awful bad, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so with this person, Michelle, with the NAFLD, first thing I would do is a wheat Zoomer test. First thing to see, do I have a sensitivity to wheat? Have I crossed the line of oral tolerance? And my immune system says, you got a problem here, because it may be manifesting for you as increased liver enzymes, which contributes to and is a mechanism in the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Let's have you take a few questions from the DrTomOBryanGlutenFree side of the tribe here. I want to honor your friends that are here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Grace says, we believe that removing Wi-Fi from our home helped our dog recover from cancer. Way to go, Grace. Way to go. Let's see. Dr. Tom, Donna Gates, Body Ecology, has a fantastic kit for fermenting food. Yes, she does. It's excellent. And Donna Gates, a good friend of both Pedram's and mine, and she has a great whole protocol for making fermented foods. And she is the go-to person for that. And it's not hard to do at all, folks. It's not, it's pretty easy to do. Maria asks, what was the name of the intestinal substance increased by eating applesauce? Was it alkaline phosphatase? Yes, intestinal alkaline phosphatase. There's 5 different types of alkaline phosphatase in the body. It's the intestinal alkaline phosphatase, IAP, is the one that is increased by the pectin in apples. That's also true for pears, but apples do more than pears do, but pears are good to eat for the same purpose. Let's see, Sharon says, what kind of canopy keeps out EMFs? I don't know about that. Is that one that you can answer, Pedram?
There's a few commercially available. I mean, it's basically the old technology of a Faraday cage. If you put yourself in an iron box, you won't get EMFs coming in. So there's, I wear silver threads. So I'll wear like a hoodie. I'm like a real weirdo on an airplane. I wear a silver threaded hoodie. I have to take it off when I go through the security because it's got enough metal to buzz. So I take it off, I run it through.
You have to send me the link for that.
Absolutely. I wear silver boxers and silver hoodies when I fly, just because I don't want to cook up there in a tin
that's
can.
More info than I need to know, man, about your box.
But yeah, I mean, you know, it's, there's about 4 or 5 canopies out there. The problem with this stuff is there's a lot of pseudoscience and there's a lot of whack jobs out there selling things that are also fake. And so, you know, I really want to go do some research before I make any product recommendations. The fabric, I got it on, I got it on a hunch that it would be good. I personally feel better on flights with it. How much is placebo? I don't know. At some point now that, you know, let me take a couple weeks off now that the series is over, and maybe I'll do a series on that. But, you know, it's hard to know because, you know, it's not like Stanford Lab is researching this stuff.
Well, you know what I'll do? You know, I bought a meter recently and I carry it with me when I fly, and I'm checking all the time. As soon as the plane takes off and we're at 35,000 feet, the meter's going through the roof all the time. So I'm going to put the meter underneath the silver hoodie and see what it registers.
Yep. So I've done that here. I have just the basic ones you get at home, and it looks like it's working, right? I mean,
and so for everyone that's watching, did you see my immediate response to what Pedram said?
I want that.
Yeah, exactly. I want that because I fly 150, 180,000 miles a year. And so even if I spend $50 or $150 and the thing turns out to only help this much, I need all the help I can get.
Totally.
You know, anything that's going to help, I'm going to use it because I'm putting myself at risk all the time when I fly. When you fly from New York to LA, depending on the solar flare cycle, it goes in 11-year cycles. So it peaks, it comes down, 11 years later, it peaks again, it's coming down. If you're at the peak of the solar flare cycle, you fly from New York to LA, you're getting the radiation exposure of 7 chest x-rays every time you fly.
Yep.
And if you're at the low end of it, it's 1 to 2 chest x-rays every time you fly. So I'm going to do everything I can, and I will get the silver thread boxers also because I need to.
I actually, I'll share 2 other things I do is because I fly so much as well. Is I actually have portable DVT pumps, which are like pneumatic devices, and so people, you know, get surgeries, want to avoid clots, do that. I wear them. It's better than 3 cups of coffee on a flight. I wear them. I throw on my hoodie, and I wear my IntelliSkin posture shirt, which pulls my scapulae back. And I'm just there. I use my my time on an airplane. I mean, Hollywood hasn't put out very many good movies. And so, you spend enough time on flights, you just work. I will sit on an airplane and work and get off and sleep in a hotel room. And it works.
I look forward sometimes to flying because I write.
Totally.
I write on the plane. I'm on my computer and my mind can just go and I'm writing the next chapter of the book, or I'm writing an article or whatever I'm doing. I rarely do emails on a plane. Sometimes if I have to catch up, but it's a creative time for me also.
Yep. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
I got questions lining up like crazy. If you got a couple more, hit them. If not, we could just go back and forth.
So Peggy says, so my doctor's suggesting antibiotics and Bactrim plus probiotic. Well, here's the thing. If you need antibiotics, if you need medication, you take it. You always take it if you need it. But if you don't need that powerful medication, if there's something natural that can support your immune system, you do that first. If it doesn't work, you do the medications, whether it's blood pressure medication or antibiotics or whatever it is. But understand, anytime you take antibiotics, you're destroying your microbiome. And so you have to have a focused, intent program on rebuilding the microbiome after you're done with the antibiotics. Really important. Really important.
Yep. Love that. Linda, hi Linda, is asking, and I don't actually know the answer to this, maybe you do, is the Cologuard test a reasonable alternative to colonoscopy? My take on colonoscopy is do the colonoscopy, because it could save your life if they find something. I don't know about the Cologuard test.
I saw one study that said that they were equivalent or really, really close. I haven't seen any that said there was a big difference, but I don't feel comfortable enough to recommend the Cologuard test as opposed to a colonoscopy. I'm with you that do the colonoscopy. It's a pain in the butt to do. Oh, I guess that's a joke.
I was going to say it could save your ass.
Right. But it's worth doing it.
Yep.
Dave says, I had the shingles question earlier. Sorry, Dave, I didn't see the earlier question. I also have had no energy for at least 3 weeks, no appetite, achy muscles, joints, depressed, or at least emotional, which is all strange for me. Now a rash appeared on my upper right rib cage. Do I detox my liver, build the immune system, get an antiviral? Any guidance is appreciated. All right, so clearly you're a mess right now. Clearly your body's ability to handle whatever the insult is has been compromised. So if your earlier question about shingles, I'm assuming that you've had some outbreaks of shingles. 90%, some studies say 90% of the Western world has herpes virus. And when you get elevated antibodies to the herpes virus, I haven't checked for about 3 months, but 3 months ago, it was 246 studies on PubMed, as public medical information, that's National Library of Medicine, 246 studies on the association between herpes simplex 1 and the development of Alzheimer's. So when you get these cold sores, when they show up, or if you get herpes on your body, when it shows up, the herpes viral count has exceeded what your immune system can handle. So the virus is taking over to some degree and it's manifesting itself, right? So your immune system is compromised. The first thing you have to do is help your immune system. So how do you do that? Well, you have to see what is suppressing the immune system. So it's not just you start taking a pill or you start taking this. You have to explore and figure out what the heck is weakening my immune system. Most common is what's on the end of your fork. That's the most common thing that weakens your immune system and allows viruses or bacteria to rear its ugly head and take over. So you've got to do a deep dive to explore and what's weakening me, or what state am I in? How far down have I gone? And how am I going to start to rebuild this? And we all want the magic pill. All right, tell me what to take and I'll take it. No, it doesn't work like that, man. The question is, what is it about my lifestyle that has put me in the situation I'm in right now? What do I have to change in my lifestyle? And for that, you need a coach. You need someone who's, in my view, certified in functional medicine. Those are the big picture people. There are many docs who are not certified in functional medicine who are great big picture people, but that's a hit and miss unless you have a friend that knows somebody like that. So if you go to functionalmedicine.org and look for the certified functional medicine practitioners, you're more likely to come across somebody that's got a big picture view. Or, and my preference to tell you, you go to my website, theDr.com, and work with my team. My team is highly trained in this. They work for me. They work with me. They've been trained to do this. We have meetings every week, and we go through those cases. And this is how the person presents. And I did this, this, and this, and these are the tests we're doing. Great, right on the money. Maybe also consider this, right? But we've got a team that does that. And I'm not here to, in any event, I'm not going to just
do it. People need this, man. Tell them where to find that.
Yeah. theDr.com. You go to the consultations at theDr.com and say, I want to know more. And my team is trained for this. I'm tired of people not knowing where to go or getting half-assed information from somebody that does a weekend course and then claims they're functional medicine practitioners.
Totally.
Excuse me, but it's just not right. It's not right. And people need this kind of help. They really need the help. So Dave, you've got a journey in front of you, man. You've got a journey. But if you find someone to walk that path with you, you will dial this down. You will not suppress the shingles. You will strengthen the immune system so that the virus calms down. It's never going to go away. Once we get shingles, once we've got herpes, the virus lives in your cells. It'd be silly to say it goes away, but you can calm it down. You'll know that you've made the one of the goals is when your IgM, that's one of the antibodies, when your IgM antibodies to herpes is down to normal range. Yes, my brain's protected. No longer is my brain being assaulted by the herpes virus. And we'll walk you through all that kind of stuff, man. But it's going to take a while. I mean, you're a mess. It's like, good news, you're a mess. Well, I can tell you're a mess, but I don't have the test results yet. So the tests have to be done to figure out what's going on for you. And that's true for everyone out there with your children. When you've got chronic conditions and you've tried some stuff and it's not working, you just need to do a deeper dive and find the right test, find the right doctor to work with that can do the right test for you.
General rule of thumb, because he's flat on his back right now, would you recommend the retrovirals? Would you recommend a bunch of lysine, just things to kind of beat back the viral load so he could build his troops back up?
Oh, yeah. Is he? I didn't see he's flat on his back, but yeah, absolutely. Lysine will calm down the activity of a herpes virus. And I learned this from Richard Schultz. Dr. Richard Schultz he's a master herbalist. He was the protege of John Christopher, the number one iridologist of the 20th century. That guy, I saw him when I was 19 and he was in his 80s. Guy had a flock of white hair, and he looked at my eyes and he said, you got blue eyes. And I said, your vision's gone bad. And he laughed, and because I've got brown eyes. He said, no, they're blue. You're just foolish. And I laughed. And he said, if you detox your body, your blue eyes may come back in your lifetime. But he was a master herbalist, and Richard Schultz is one of his top students. And Dr. Schultz he doesn't mess around. So he's like Linus Pauling, the only two-time Nobel laureate, the only man ever to win the Nobel Prize twice. I've got a video of Dr. Pauling. He's in his 80s, and he says, yes, my wife and I take 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day, and when we get old, we'll take more. Just dry humor, right? But sometimes when you are in a state of compromise like you are now, Dave, you need to blast it. You need to get in there with blast it. So in your case, I've had a cold sore that pops up every once in a while because I travel too much and there's, too much going on. But I'll take 8, 10 lysine capsules 3 times a day. I just blast it. And in a day or two, it's gone. It calms down immediately. The activity calms down, and it takes 4 or 5 days before there's no visible sign of it. But all the activity that you can feel is gone within a day or two. So I'd blast it.
I got a question from Gene. My tongue is always swollen with teeth imprints, white coat in the morning. What could this be? This is actually classic Chinese medicine. They call it spleen damp, cold damp. I mean, if you're not looking at the dairy, the wheat, and the things that you are ingesting that are creating inflammation in the gut, it's an obvious first place to start. That is an insufficiency of your digestive system. It could be candida, depending on what's going on in there. But I mean, this is classic gut biome issue, right?
Yeah. And in babies, we know this. It's called thrush.
Right.
And it's a candida overgrowth. It's a yeast overgrowth. So if you got a white tongue in the morning, it may likely be that it certainly is, your microbiome's out of balance, because all that white stuff is just exhaust. It's just crud, right? And so it's accumulating. So, you want to get it out of there. So I would do the biome test first, and I'd start from there. Mia Jones writes that we don't have any functional doctors in North Wales, as far as I know, so I can't get guidance and tests done. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You've got a computer, go to theDr.com and start working with my team. It's certainly possible to do this. Mary Agnes says, is that spinach an oxalate issue, Dr. Tom? I don't know. Pedram, can you answer that one?
Yeah, it's an oxalate issue. It's so the oxalate producing or the bacteria that break down the oxalates are missing in my gut biome, and so then you start getting too much oxalates, right? I mean, if I would eat spinach, I would end up with kidney disease, basically.
Oh, sure, of course. But she spelled it Oscillate, and it's oxalates was like on a meter. And so I'm thinking EMF question, and I didn't. That was a test, Mary Agnes. You tested me.
She got you. Sharon's actually saying, you said eat those apples, but my biome says don't. So there you go. Well, that's actually it, Sharon. Touche, right? Even the advice from the smartest doctors may or may not be appropriate for you, and that's why individualized medicine is important.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you for bringing that up, Sharon. That's right on the money. Karen asks, is organic wheat better? No wheat is better. The studies are very clear. Every human gets intestinal permeability every time they eat wheat within 5 minutes of it getting into the intestines. I've seen the videos of this. Harvard published the videos, and you see the videos like, oh my God, look at this. Within 5 minutes, there's intestinal permeability. You see it. And it happens with any foods that you're sensitive to. They checked wheat and soy and dairy and yeast. And all four of them, if they had sensitivities to those foods, or any of those foods, that food would trigger intestinal permeability within 5 minutes. But we know every human has a problem with wheat. Every human, whether you feel it or not. So even if you have not crossed the line of oral tolerance, meaning you do a wheat Zoomer test and it comes back negative, you're still putting gasoline down there. So if you want to know if you can eat wheat now or not today, all right, have I crossed the line and it's now a problem? The answer is do the wheat Zoomer test. Zoom in on the question with that test. That's what that test is for.
Great. Sam is asking, besides wheat, are there any other grains that are generally not okay? Or if you have a healthy microbiome, what kind of grains would be okay to include in your diet?
Good question, Sam. 50% of people with a problem with wheat also have a problem with corn. And now the laboratory that does the wheat Zoomer has a panel of Zoomers. There's 7 of them. There's a corn Zoomer and a dairy Zoomer and a peanut Zoomer and a nut Zoomer and a couple of others. Now, what does that mean? Laboratories have been checking for sensitivity to wheat for 25 years. And they look at the wheat molecule. But it's a big molecule, relatively speaking. Many times, people are not sensitive to wheat. They're sensitive to one component in wheat. One particular, it's called a peptide, or a couple of peptides of wheat. And every time you eat wheat, your immune system reacts to that peptide. And it's true with corn. It's true with dairy. We know that there are many components in a protein that may be the problem. The problem is that most labs only look at the whole protein, not the different components. That's what's so unique about the Zoomer test with the sensitivity and specificity like this, that is cutting edge. So and the Zoomer panels right now are at a big discount. You can save like over $1,000 if you do 5 or 6 Zoomers. they've just introduced them in the last 2 months, and the lab is wanting to get the message out to everyone. So there's a big special on it right now. You can go to my website, theDr.com, and you can find it there. And we'll post it on the Facebook page here, the link for that.
Great. Yeah, and share it, and I'll post it on this side as well.
You bet.
Yeah, we're in multiple ecosystems here. I got...
I've got to do this one from Rajenda. What about the wheat and properly made sourdough bread that per Orvea can be consumed in winter? Listen, the bottom line, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. The bottom line is you do a comprehensive blood test. Does your immune system say you got a problem with this food? Your immune system is the armed forces in your body. It's there to protect you. There's an Army, an Air Force, a Marines, a Coast Guard, a Navy, IGA, IGG, IGE, IGM. The bottom line is you just look to the armed forces. If they say you got a problem, irrespective of what your head says, oh, it's sourdough, it's good for me, it's partially fermented. Irrespective of what your head says, you listen to what your immune system says. That's why it's so important to have comprehensive tests. That's why it's so important to have tests that have this cutting edge technology, like the Zoomers and like Biome for your gut. It's cutting edge technology. That's why it's important.
Yep. Mary's got a 9-year-old with ulcerative colitis. Trying to figure out what do you feed a kid? You know, it's hard to feed kids in the first place in this modern culture. They go to school and they, you know, basically get exposed to so many bad habits through other people's kids. And so, you know, what would your recommendation there be?
Yeah, really sorry to hear that. And because ulcerative colitis is not good, and as it progresses, it can become to the point where surgery becomes the recommendation. Then that person for the rest of their lives has a compromised gut. So Mary, it's great that you're here. It's great that you're learning about this, that you went through Interconnected. You've got lots of information now. You know, my rule of thumb, my new book that came out a couple months ago, the subtitle is just 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. The name of the book is You Can Fix Your Brain, but it's 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. That's because this stuff is so overwhelming for everyone. You throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? You just don't know what to do, so you're immobilized. So if you allocate 1 hour a week, and for you, Mary, because of your child, maybe it's 1 hour 2 times a week or 3 times a week, and you go back to listen to the Interconnected again, and you listen to one of the interviews, and you say, wow, and you write down a couple of bullet points that, for example, get the plastic out of your kitchen. Get all of the plastic containers out, not just some of them. Get the plastic saran wrap out. The stuff leaches into the food, and your kid gets plastics in their food. They get the phthalates. Then just go to Google and type in phthalates and inflammation, or phthalates and colitis. And you go, oh my God. But it's going to take you an hour to go online. If you read my book, you see, go to mileskimball.com or to go to Amazon, and you look for their glass storage containers. Oh, those look nice. I like those. I don't like those. I like those. I'll order 3 round ones and 4 square ones. I need this size. And you order them. It took you an hour. And then you're done for the week. But the result is, for the rest of your lives, your family won't be poisoned by phthalates when you serve leftovers, because they're now in glass containers, right? Mm-hmm. It's those baby steps. I thank my sister for this. She told me, you know, because I'm flattered. People ask me to autograph my book, you know, and so I'm doing lots of autographs when I'm in lectures and things. And I always write the same thing now. Base hits win the ball game, because it's those baby steps. It's the base hits that you make every day or every week that in the long term help you to win the ball game. So with your child, you've got to do a Biome. Yeah, that's critical. You have to know what's going on in that gut, what's going on down there. And there are other tests also that you'd want to do with a functional medicine practitioner. If you don't have one, go to my site and work with my team.
Love it. Love it. And by the way, if you're listening to this right now, open another tab in your browser, go to Amazon or wherever, and just get Dr. Tom's books. You Can Fix Your Brain, and you have the autoimmunity one is amazing. So tell me what's the one you want everyone to get, like, to start with?
Oh, both of them, and I get both of them and give them as gifts to people because they make a difference in a person's life. They really do. And if you go to my website, they're both on the front page. And if you click on either one of the books, it'll take you to Amazon or to Barnes and Noble or Books A Million. But then you also can download a bunch of free stuff about how to change your pantry over to gluten-free, and so we put a lot of stuff there for you. So you go to theDr.com, and then it'll route you over to order the book. But then you have access to all this other stuff that you could download.
Love it. We got 7 more minutes. I want to jam through a few more questions here. Joanne, hello. Nice to see your face. Do prescriptions like Valtrex for herpes mess with the microbiome? Doc, do you know anything about that?
I don't, and I would say most likely it does, but I don't know for sure.
Yep. So Joanne, here's the problem is we are now in this era where we're just able to detect these things. So, what I would do there is basically, you can do, and this RNA sequencing has gotten so cheap comparatively with what Viome is doing, and it's just going to get cheaper over the years. But you basically do an assay, find out what's happening with your microbiome, take some Valtrex and see what happens. See what is happening directly after exposure, and it's unbelievable how quick the feedback loop is becoming. And we will know this. We will know all of this in the next few years. But you probably know it now after exposure to some of these things. Most of us have our own gut intuition that also kicks in, and you take something and you say something's off, something's different. I'm a little gassy, or I'm less hungry, I'm more hungry. These are all reflections of what's happening with your microbiome. And someone, you had mentioned this, but someone had, you had said that Linus was the first male who had gotten it, but Candace is saying Marie Curie actually got the first 2 Nobel Prizes.
Well, right, she's the female. There have been 2 people in the world. But thank you for that. Thank you. And I just went on Google and I typed in Valtrex and microbiome, and the second listing is one that talks about one of the side effects of Valtrex is that it can produce stones. It can produce aquifer stones and obstruct uropathy, meaning obstruct your kidneys from functioning. So I have to say, probably it's going to affect your microbiome. Probably.
Yep.
Don't know for sure.
A couple more on your side, Doc?
You bet. Gabriela says, doctors, you both are amazing. God bless you. The info is just incredible. Greetings from Peru. We learned so much from you. Functional medicines are present and our future, and now we know that the microbiome is our whole life by itself. Thanks so much. That's not a question. It's a great statement, Gabriela. Thank you. And it's a pleasure. It validates us and why we do what we do here. I'm speaking for Pedram, but I know that's the case. Morris says, you say to avoid dairy, but is fermented dairy beneficial? Is it beneficial even when you have as a sensitivity to dairy? Fermented dairy is really beneficial. Our ancestors, that's where they got their fermentation, was with fermented dairy. A lot of it was. However, if you have elevated antibodies to the proteins of dairy, you can't eat dairy. Well, but it's fermented. It's good for my gut. Yes, but your immune system says it's not good for your body. Your immune system rules. That's the bottom line. It's there to protect you. So you can't take things in that activate the immune system. I'll give you one example. I've got 3 papers that I pulled up a couple of months ago on if you have a sensitivity to dairy, and if it's the casein in dairy. There's 3 papers that talk about casein sensitivity and sudden infant death syndrome. That if your child has a sensitivity to dairy because they inherited it from mom, most likely, and you give them dairy and they have that sensitivity, the casein molecules may be the culprit causing the tearing of the blood-brain barrier, the breach of the blood-brain barrier, and sudden infant death syndrome. There's 3 papers that I found on that last month. So, but wait, isn't dairy good for you? Well, what if it's fermented? There's still casein in it. Right? So one aspect of a food being good may not cover the entire picture. And to answer that question, you have to read the dashboard of your body. What's the dashboard? Your immune system. It's there to protect you. Your immune system doesn't go crazy. Your immune system may be hyperactive trying to protect you because you keep throwing the wrong stuff down there. That's certainly possible, but you don't suppress the immune system Rather, you reduce the need for the activation of the immune system.
That's a big point. A lot of people say, well, I feel like you're making contradictory things by saying yogurt and kefir are good for you when dairy is bad for you. Here's something I just need everyone to understand. There is no one size fits all. If you can tolerate dairy, then cool. Kefir is probably great for you. Test it. Right. But so, yes, there's plenty of kinds of ferments. Are they all good for you? Probably not. Right.
Probably
and you get
not.
to figure it out.
Right. I see Scott Larkins watching. Hey, Scotty, good to see you, man. Or good to see you're here. Thank you. Let's see. Another question. Diane says, Dr. Tom, thank you for what you do. I just ordered your GI repair kit, hoping to help lower my thyroid antibodies. Have both of your books and listen to you as often as I can. Please continue teaching us as we need you, and we need you and your fellow doctors to show us the way to better health. Thanks, Diane. That's really nice. Thank you so much. And yes, what she's doing is she's healing her gut to reduce her autoimmune thyroid disease. That's a basic premise in the autoimmune fix. When you read the autoimmune fix, that's a basic, is that you have to address the gut to deal with an autoimmune disease. It doesn't matter if it's Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or Hashimoto's or lupus or multiple sclerosis. You must address the gut as a component of healing whatever the disease is, the autoimmune disease is that you have.
Amen. A lot of people are asking, are sheep and goat milk products better than cow?
Yes. Cow's milk is 8 times the size of human breast milk. Sheep milk is 6 times the size. It's still too big. It's still a problem, but it's less of a problem.
Yeah. Smaller, less clunky molecules.
Right. The safer ones, that have closer of a homology with human breast milk are reindeer, donkey, and camel's milk. Mm-hmm. Those 3 are safer. Well, where do you get camel's milk? Oh, it's easy. There's an Amish group out of Arkansas, I think it is. They raise camels, and they milk the camels. I don't know that I'd ever want to milk a camel, but they milk camels. And,
the reindeer one sounds kind of magical. The other 2 make me want to stay with.
Right. The camel one, they said, can we send you, they sent me some camel's milk. It came in the mail one day in a box and refrigerate, ice packs. I said, and I put it in the refrigerator, and I just couldn't, I said, camels? Man, I just couldn't get around to it, and it expired. And then they reached out a couple months later. What did you think of the milk? I said, oh, I'm sorry, I was traveling and it expired. We'll send you some more. And so they sent me more, and I tried it. It was really good. I was surprised. I had it with some gluten-free granola, and I was really surprised at how good it was. I now do not hesitate to recommend camel's milk. It's really quite good. And I don't know if there are a number of sources for that in the country or not. I don't know. But the one that they sent it to me is Desert Farms, Camel Farm, Desert Farms. And and I met the owner, Pedram. I think you've met Waleed also.
Yeah, I've met him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. He's pure of heart, a really good guy. And their camel's milk, I recommend it. It was tasty and it's satisfying. So there you go.
Great. So we're out of time and we got a lot of questions. We tried to get as many as we can here, but there's just a lot more. So Doc, leave people with your resource, please, of where you have your functional medicine docs, because to me that's been one of our biggest things. And we've been sending a lot of people to IFM. There's just just hard to find good docs.
Yeah. I've got a team now. I've got a number of practitioners. It's great, and we're ready. And it's theDr.com, theDr.com in general, or you can write to consultations@theDr.com and say, hi, I'd like to learn more. I'd like to have a consultation. You can do a 15-minute consultation, at not very expensive at all, and say, hi, this is what I've got. This is what I've done. What do you think? And then the team will say, well, we probably would want to do this, and this, and we'd have you. Everybody that works with us, everyone has to do a living matrix. And my team now knows if somebody schedules an appointment, an hour appointment, and the day comes and they haven't done their living matrix, cancel. Well, what do you mean? Cancel. We don't work with people that don't give us what we need. The living matrix will take you 3, 4, 5 hours to fill out. It'll take you like a few days, because I want to know, what was your mother's health and pregnancy with you? Well, I don't know. Well, ask her. You have to find out. Well, my mother's dead. Ask your aunts.
Right.
Find out what you can. Well, why? Because if your mother was sick and took some particular drugs or took antibiotics for a sinus infection, that affected your microbiome when you were developing inside of mom. And then we want to know, how many antibiotics have you had when you were a kid? How many ear infections? How about strep infections? Have you had strep infections? Do you have strep throat? Do you have a history of recurrent strep throat? That's really important, because many autoimmune diseases come from the antibodies that your immune system makes to fight strep. They'll start fighting your myelin and you get MS, or they start fighting your heart and you get rheumatic fever. So we need to know what your history is. You don't fill out the living matrix, we cancel you. Don't reschedule until you do it. Yeah. Don't waste our time. You want to get well, we'll do everything we can, we'll fight for you. But you have to give us the information we need, right? So that we can walk this path together.
The same person who doesn't want to put in the 5 hours will spend the next 5 years feeling miserable until they finally get around to it, and they just have less gas in the tank, less vitality, and less energy to recover.
Exactly. Ken Perotti says, you two seem to be having a ball with all the laughing and guffaws. I'm enjoying it tremendously. Great. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, this is fun. This is the way that we should be teaching people all the time. Yeah. Because you all know that what we're saying makes sense, and hopefully there's a lot of OMGs for you. Oh my God. But now's the time you go do your homework. You order my books. You buy Interconnected, and you watch it again and again and again. Just watch one of the talks. You say, oh, I remember. Oh, that was really good. And then go back and watch it again. And then you order the glass containers for your kitchen. Get rid of the Tupperware. And then you take the next step. You turn off your microwave or your router Wi-Fi at night. When I interviewed Fran Drescher a couple of months ago for my Facebook Live, she said that she was so proud. Oh, I'll tell you two things that she said. The first thing was, my first question to her was, Fran, a woman gets diagnosed with cancer or MS or any other devastating diagnosis. What's the first thing you say to them? And she did this. And she just looked at me. And then she said, someone broke into my house and raped me at gunpoint. I'm from Brooklyn. I thought I can handle anything. 2 days later, I'm back at work. I didn't tell anybody. A year later, I developed uterine cancer. You must deal with the emotions that are underlying whatever disease you have. That's how she started the interview. And I said, I like you.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you so much. I said, I really like you, Frank. She goes, which does that thing. But that's the emotional side of the pyramid, folks. So now you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in your head. Get my books, read the books. It's going to take you a little while. Listen to Interconnected again and again. Do the biome test. Do the wheat zoomer test. Get these basic things done, and recognize that you're on a path. You aren't going to get a pill that makes you feel better and gets rid of all your problems. You have to walk the journey and go back upstream to figure out. Oh, this is the last analogy I'll give you. A person comes in. They're diagnosed with colitis, and they want to get well. It's like they've fallen over a waterfall and they've crashed into the pond below, and they swim up to the surface and oh God, thank God I'm alive. Oh God. And they're trying to stay afloat in the pond of colitis, or the pond of diabetes, or the pond of recurrent miscarriages. It doesn't matter what pond, but the pond of colitis for this example. But the water's really turbulent because the waterfall's falling into the pond. So the water's really turbulent. You're still living the lifestyle that caused the colitis. Your life is turbulent. So everybody wants the life jacket. What's the pill I can take that's going to fix my 9-year-old daughter? What's the pill? you need a life jacket to stay afloat. So if you need the drugs, you take them. You try the natural stuff first. If it doesn't work, you take the drugs. Don't drown. But you don't stay in the pond. You don't keep living the lifestyle that caused the problem. You get out of the water. You walk up the hill. You go back up the river and figure out what fell in the river that carried me downstream, and I fell into the pond of colitis. So you turn off the wireless at night in the house. Or like in our home, we're moving into a new home soon. There will be no wireless. It's all going to be hardwired so that I can plug my computer in any room. You know, there won't be any wireless. And you do the little things. You get rid of all the plastic. You leave your shoes at the door so you aren't walking with your shoes on the carpet because your neighbor sprayed the sidewalk yesterday with Roundup to kill the dandelions. Now you got Roundup on your shoes. And you walk in the house, now it's on the carpet. And your little kid is crawling on the carpet, or your teenage daughter is doing her homework on the carpet. Now they get Roundup in their hands and on their body, and it gets right into their bloodstream. You leave your shoes at the door. You leave the toxic world outside. So you start learning all these little things that you do. You change your life. You stop living in the pond that has caused the disease that you have. That's how you get out of this mess that we're all in. Whether it's called colitis or depression, whatever it's called, you got to go back upstream, and then you implement the base hits to win the ball game.
I love that. I love that. Tom, I know it's like middle of the night for you. It's been a long one. I really appreciate you doing this. Look, he didn't have to do this. He's doing this because he's just such a supporter of the work that we've done here. And he's just always been a good friend. And I really appreciate you showing up here late at night. Your wife's probably like, come on, let's go.
She's over here with a glass of wine. She's happy. So,
tell Marzi I love her.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Pedram, let me say, and for all of you out there, this series, Interconnected, is, I sent a message, I think earlier today, to Pedram and his sponsor. And I said, you know, guys, this is one of the best series ever, after Betrayal, of course, which was ours. But it's an incredible series. This is 101 information to raise a healthy family. This is basic information you need to know. It sounds very sophisticated right now to you and like over your head. That's why you listen to it again and again. So you dial this down. This is basic stuff. You can't let this stuff go away. Your gut is the foundation. Everyone needs to do the biome test so that you understand the foundation of it's the most comprehensive test out there today. So that you've got a piece of the puzzle that you're working on of your foundation. Critically important. And Pedram, a real shout out to you for the quality of what you put together. People don't know what you and I know of what it takes to put this together. You worked your buns off for months and months and months, put tens of thousands of miles traveling to interview these experts from all over the world. And your team put it together in such a great way that it's easy to follow, easy to understand. Really, my hat off to you, my friend. I'm not wearing a hat, but if so, I would tip my hat to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, anything worth doing is worth doing right. And if it's a heavy lift and you're away from your family, it's because it's going to save a lot of lives. It's going to help a lot of people. Amen. And that's what we're in this for, right? There are millions of people that need to hear this message, and we're just getting started. And, we're just working to help fix this healthcare crisis. Doesn't have to be. And there's a lot of human suffering that you and I know how to fix. And now everyone who's watched the series knows how to fix in their own lives. So, it's one thing to just, listen to information. It's another thing to implement it in your life and be the change so that you can then be the healthy person in your family, and it starts to ripple out. And that's what I'm really hoping for is the magnitude 10 earthquake that happens that starts with everyone watching this right now in their own lives.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And my last comment, I didn't mean to say that my wife's over there drinking wine. She's happy. She's actually posting all of the links, and, she's so supportive. I mean, I couldn't do this without her, and I'm just so very grateful. And I know that you've got the same type of support team behind you. And
Oh man, mine took my kids to a Christmas parade to get them out of the house today so that I can do this. She's like, I thought you said your thing is over. What do you mean replay weekend? I'm like, honey, we just had a lot of people that still need to see this. Just please, 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 couple more days. So I am gonna be full-time family man come Monday. There's a lot of time to put back in, and it's I couldn't do any of this without my wife, and I know you feel the same.
Exactly. And so for all of you listening, thank you so much for taking the time. Now implement this.
Totally. Get
Put
to work.
some of this into action.
Get to work. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Tom O'Bryan. Thanks so much.